Welcome to Cradle and All, a podcast hosted by sisters Renita and Christine to educate, inspire, and connect with other mothers. Every other week, listen as we discuss topics related to pregnancy, raising children, and balancing motherhood with other aspects of womanhood. Whether you're relaxing, juggling tasks, or even breast pumping, join us as we figure it out together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cradle and All. This is Christine.
Welcome back. This is Renita.
Hi. And today we're talking all about traveling with toddlers and small children. So Renita and I, of course, we're siblings, and our parents were like really big on travel. I feel like that's where I got the bug from, is from them. Don't you, Renita? We used to go all over the place.
Like so much. We have so many trips. That's why I want to go on like 4 trips a year, because I'm just so used to traveling.
Yeah. Ever since we were toddlers, I think the very first trip we went on, I remember my mom telling us about it, was the trip to Disneyland. And we lived in Chicago at the time, and we went to Disneyland with all of our cousins, and our cousins, my mom's siblings' kids are like all around the same age as us. And there's like 8 or 9. There's a lot of us, maybe like 8 of us. I don't know. I've never counted.
Yes. All of her siblings were pregnant at the same time. So yeah. How many siblings does she have?
5?
Yeah.
In total, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. And they were all pregnant. So imagine all of us cousins at the same age going to Disneyland.
Yeah. So that was, I think, our very first trip. I was 2 and you were probably 3.5. Obviously. Yeah. But yeah, so ever since then, our parents have always traveled with us. So every spring break, we would go on road trips to Disney World or to DC. I remember one time I even drove with my family. I think you probably were there, Renita, to Canada. We went to Niagara Falls. We drove there.
Of course I was there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I did do some trips. We did some trips without each other. Like,
yeah.
Some spring breaks.
The crazy thing about it is that mom was afraid to fly for like half of our lives. So we were doing these long distance trips, like in the car. We drove from Georgia to Canada and all these
in New York
like that. Yeah.
And then we ended up flying alone many times. So this was back in the day. I don't know how it is now for kids, if parents are comfortable with this as much, but when it used to be nice when they used to give you a warm cookie and you got like chauffeured, we would fly alone as maybe middle schoolers, maybe even elementary,
because we're from Chicago originally. And so we moved to Georgia. At least I was in first grade or something like that. And we were still connected with our friends back in Chicago. So even as early as first and second grade, we were flying back to Chicago. So our parents, this is pre 9/11, our parents would walk us up to the gate, and then the flight attendant would like watch us in the first or second row. I mean, I don't even think we're in first class. I don't know where we were.
No. But I don't know how it was back then, if they even had that.
So it is so crazy to think how much travel we did as children. And now we have our own kids to travel with.
I know. I love it. I really am excited about all the potential travel. So much so that Dallas's baby room was travel themed.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
It was travel themed. We had this really beautiful wallpaper that had the entire world. It was, oh my God, I loved that room so much. I wanted to take that wallpaper with me, but I really foresaw traveling with my kids all over the place. So that's why today we're talking all about traveling with children, traveling with our kids, and some of the things that we've learned along the way between our experience traveling as children and also now that we've done it a little bit with our kids.
Yes, absolutely. And the funny thing is, Bryson and I have done a little travel with our kids, but our first travel experience with flight was actually with you. That was mine. Yeah. Bryson wasn't even there.
Dontrell wasn't either.
Yeah. So the first time we flew with our oldest kids, we were together.
Yep. We went to New York, and that has been honestly the only time that I've flown with my child. I didn't have Dakota yet, but that was a huge learning experience because it's like you prepare, there's a lot of preparation involved. I feel like that's one of the biggest things with traveling is all the preparation, the
Yeah.
list, the making sure you have every single thing. And that's not even with like a flight, even if they're going overnight somewhere. It's like the packing, making sure everything is there. But yeah, so let's start with that flight experience with the kids. So, what were some of the things that were like super important that you wanted to bring for that flight trip?
Well, for one, there's just so much stuff. Like, you know that kids have a lot of stuff, but it's crazy when you have to fit it all on a plane. So I just remember figuring, like, how are we going to get the pack and play, the car seats, entertainment for them? And so one of the things that I think we tried to do because we were traveling together is that we tried to consolidate some things. Like, we shared a pack and play, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I had a car seat bag that you could like roll, so that was really
Yeah,
convenient. But
that
just
was
figuring out how to manage all of the extra things and not pay $1 million because you have to check each of these
right.
things.
Especially when they're under 2, or even I don't even know when the car seat age stops, but when you have a stroller, you have bulky items, a pack and play, a stroller, a car seat, it's like those things start to add
Yes.
up, and you're only one person, maybe two if you're lucky, but carrying all of those things through the airport. So yeah, I think consolidation is key. So I think for us, like one of the things that we tried to limit was, of course, with some of the items we could share, but also when it came to some of the bulkier items, trying to get a smaller one, like with the stroller, instead of bringing the large
Yes.
stroller, bringing an umbrella stroller.
And then the other thing that I have seen and that I think some people have done, like, you can literally carry your child in the car seat
Mm-hmm.
in through the airport. So that's
Yeah.
one thing that you can check, because in some situations you could technically let your child sit in the car seat if you get a
Mm-hmm.
seat.
I've
We
seen
were
people do that,
Yeah,
rolling their kids through the airport in a car seat.
exactly. We were with mom, and she flies a lot now, no longer afraid to fly. And so she had you don't have to pay to check stuff. So we were like checking things under her
Yeah.
name. I remember one guy, it was like over 50 pounds, and I had an extra thing, and he was like, just go, like, it's okay, I won't charge you. I was like, thank you, sir.
I know, I know. So it's like, okay, now you're there. It's a matter of getting there, getting through the gate with all the stuff. Hopefully, everybody is like feeling good and good spirits. One thing with us, though, back then when they were so little, Dallas was so young, he was still nursing. So I felt like having those comforts, I mean, for him, the comfort was nursing, especially when the flight was landing and taking off. But another important thing that in addition to the bulky items was like the comforts of home and the
Yeah.
things that would keep the kids comfortable during travel. For us, it was like particular sound machines that I knew would keep him comforted when it's time to sleep.
Mhm.
And um, a blanket, something to cover him up with, layers of clothes, a jacket, an extra shirt, all the extras that you need, extra breast milk.
Pacifier,
Yeah.
pacifier if you're still using that. And honestly, if you are still have you're at the age that you could wear a baby, that's ideal too. Because
Yeah.
the other time I flew with Jackson, I can't remember anymore because it's so far away, but I'm pretty sure I wore him through the airport because that was one other time I didn't have to carry something. I could just literally wear him. He was comforted by being, you know, close
Mm-hmm.
to me and warm within me, and he easily fell asleep. So that's another plus.
When did you travel with him the other time?
I think we went to Ohio to visit family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's another time that
So
we
how
had
old
to,
was he?
I guess, since I was wearing him
Oh, he
less
had to
than
be
one.
little.
I
Yeah.
know. I don't remember.
Good,
But
Jackie.
another thing too, talking about stuff, if you're going somewhere, keeping in mind what is already there. So it's less things you have to take.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to family, of course, you might have some extra stuff like a car seat or pack and play. But
Mm-hmm.
if sometimes hotels and Airbnbs, they may actually have some of the stuff that you already need. Like a lot of them do have a place for baby to sleep, or some Airbnbs will say we have an extra stroller or something
Mm-hmm.
that available. So keeping that in mind, a lot of places you can rent some things too.
Yeah.
So that may save you on carrying a lot of your big things when you travel.
Right. That's true. And then but outside of that, I think for us, when flying, we're actually getting ready to fly soon. We're going to Delaware to visit Dontrell's family. We're actually flying with both kids for the first time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of nervous. I'm like, how is this going to go? How are we going to get everything through? What are we going to bring? I feel like I need to start planning and Pinteresting now to figure it
Yes.
all out, because I'm like, oh man, it's going to be fun for them, but also a lot for us. I always like feel for those parents in the airport where like their kid is running and they like, slow down, Johnny. You know, the kid's going and
Not
like,
Johnny.
oh my gosh, Johnny, come back. But yeah, so I think for me, when I'm thinking about that trip, I'm thinking about the traveling there, but also once we get there, like you're saying, Renita, like once we're at the place, what do we need to make it comfortable for the kids? And for me, I always think about sleeping arrangements. That's always like a big thing because it's like they're in a different environment. They don't have the same smells and comforts of home. Like how to, and we want them to sleep. Like that's just so important. Like, what do you guys do when you're traveling? Because you've traveled with both your kids a couple
Yeah.
times. Like, what do
Yeah.
you
So
guys do?
for one, we try to stick with the same routine no matter where we are and even if we're en route. So nap times, we always want to be the same when they eat and stuff like that, because I feel like sleep and eating really affect kids. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, we've traveled mostly by car, but when it's nap time, we don't even really listen to loud music or anything too entertaining. We say quiet time until the kids fall asleep, and we turn on a sound machine. And then when we're out doing our activities, when we're on our actual vacation or whatever trip we're on, we still try to keep up with it. It may be a little bit more difficult because you may be having something planned, but we try to avoid like an excursion or something big at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
with eating, like the same thing, especially because there's so many different treats and things that are out of the routine that kids can get really excited about. But we really try to stick with whatever our breakfast, lunch, and dinner is. Any extras like the sweets and stuff like that, we try to have after the main meal.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that advice. What you're saying about sleeping, we try to do the same thing. It's like keep them on that schedule. And I could so vividly remember whenever we veer off of that schedule with sleeping, oh my gosh, they get so cranky. We
Yeah.
went to Tennessee once for Dontrell's, like he had this thing, a football alumni thing at his school, and we really wanted the kids to see the football game. And of course, it's mid-high afternoon, right in the middle of both of their naps. We did not make it like 10 minutes into the game. They were just so cranky. And that just validated the importance of planning things around their nap schedule, especially when they're like under 3, I would say.
Yeah.
That
But
you
mhm. One thing I found, we have a stroller that I underestimated. So we have like a Britax infant stroller that can convert into like a stroller that toddlers can use. And at first I was like, this thing is so bulky. Like after the infant stage, when you need the infant car seat, like do we need something this bulky? But actually I really do like to travel with it, even at Jackson's age now, because it reclines all the way flat. And then
Mm-hmm.
you could be out doing your normal thing, but your kid can like lay back flat even at a toddler age. I remember you and I went to the High Museum or something like that, and we had Jackson with us, and that was the first time that I used it like that. And he was able to sleep while we were out doing our thing, and it was at his nap time. So sometimes figuring out little hacks to get them to do something you want them to do, like sleep or eat at a certain time when
Mm-hmm.
you're out and about, is also really useful. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think that works for one, like we had a double stroller when that meltdown happened and did not quite work. But I think, yeah, when they get older, they have that age gap. Like I said, I feel like when they get to a certain age, they can miss a nap and be a little bit better about it than
mhm.
the infants and early toddler age. Um, but I wanted to also touch on what you said about meals and having meals, really sticking to that when you're traveling. And one thing that's been difficult for us when we travel with kids is making sure that they have a balanced meal when traveling. Because when you're not at home, you tend to eat out more, which means sugary foods, maybe fried foods, things that are not as healthy. And so for us, I know that I always, whenever we travel by car, one of the benefits of that is that you can bring snacks and healthy foods. So that's one of my purposes when we travel by car, is to make sure that we have fruit. We have like apples and just a bunch of fruit that they can eat instantly in the car, raisins, just really having a healthy variety of snacks that we can bring to the wherever we're going, and then also have it last throughout the vacation, because that's one of my largest complaints is like, we're just going to eat fast food the whole time. So like having some yogurts and different things like that when we travel by driving. But like the lunch, I still haven't figured out yet. I mean, they get tired of sandwiches. You can't really travel with sandwich meat. The lunch thing, dinner, maybe there's no solution to that. Have you
But
guys?
I feel like you can kind of do it either with flights or car travel. And then when you're there, so for example, on car travel, we have taken, I mean, we're going to go all out. If we have the room to pack it, we're going to pack it. So we will pack a cooler on every car trip we ever use. And in that, we have some pre-designed meals. So we may have breakfast already created so that the kids have something to eat as soon as they wake up, or even lunch if we're not going to stop for lunch. So as you mentioned, you can do sandwiches, or sometimes we'll do some kind of cold meal that they can eat that may not be like traditional, for example, but like grapes and yogurt or cheese sticks or something like that they can have. And then when we're actually on the trip, many times we will like choose an Airbnb, or if we're staying at family or, family or friends, that's different too, so that we can kind of combine cooking and eating out. And of course, not everyone wants to cook when they are traveling, but it has been very convenient for us to be able to have flexibility in what our kids are eating.
Yeah, that's why we always do Airbnb unless we're like at a wedding or something. But I hands down prefer Airbnb. And even you don't have to cook. You could even order out. You could go out to eat and bring it back. But I feel like the thing I love about that is the space that you get, because it's so much more helpful for sleeping. Like, the kids are going to sleep. You can still go out of their room and watch TV and like have a night still, even though they're going to bed at 7. You could still do something and carry on with something fun when they're asleep. I remember the first trip that Drill and I went on with Dallas, we went to Asheville, and we had gone to we had like this favorite Airbnb we'd always stay at. And we're like, oh my gosh, now we have a kid. What do? We still went to that Airbnb. They had a hot tub. He was in there and we went outside in the hot tub. It was like this, you could still vacation with kids. This is awesome. But I am like hands down like a snob for Airbnbs when it comes to travel, because you can't beat the space. And then also the food, like you kind of have the comforts of home when you're traveling.
It makes it very easy when you have that space. And then you have a place for the kids to like have their mess and their time, like that. Like you can make a cool entertainment area and things like that. And plus to have quiet time, as you said, when they're sleeping and they're in a different room or different space for you to be doing what you want to do.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's like being at home. It really is. And
away from home.
But when we used to travel as kids, I remember we always used to go to Holiday Inns.
Yes. And we would literally be in the same hotel room, mom and dad in one bed, us in the other bed.
Right.
But the first time we ever went to a trip, we went to South Carolina, Charleston, I think. And we had Jackson with us. He was probably like 5 or 6 months. And he was in the room with us, and we put him down to bed at like 6 or 7, because that's the time that kids go to bed at that age. And we like felt like we couldn't even talk. We were just like whispering. I was like, what a trip. This is very strange.
Yes.
But
that's true. That's true. And then even sometimes, even when you have the Airbnb, oh my gosh, they still might not sleep well. I mean, there's no guarantee just because they're in their own room that they're going to sleep well, or if they have the space. Like we went to St. Simon Island with Dallas and Dakota. That was their first trip together. Dakota was 3 months, and mom came with us. Dallas and mom slept in one room, Dontrell and I and Dakota in the other. And it even was a townhouse. Even so, every single night, Dakota was in bed with us. He was in bed because he just couldn't sleep. I guess he knew the environment. I mean, he had that issue his whole first year of life. If you've been listening, but still no guarantee, even with the Airbnb, that they're going to sleep well.
But one of the things that I like to do when you have a separate space for your kids, whether it be a whole other room in an Airbnb, or it's like another bed in the hotel room,
Mm-hmm.
set it up in the environment that you do when you're home. So we put our sound machine on, we still turn the lights down, we do our complete routine, like we read a book before bed and brush the teeth and wash up and all that stuff, because it puts them in the routine, even if they're in a different space, that, hey, it's bedtime, nothing has changed, because kids love routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important. The routine is so, so important. So even when you're outside of that normal environment, they still know that it's business as usual. It's nap time. Even though we're at this relative's house and it's somebody else's room, we read a book, the lights are dimmed, it's quiet times. Like I think that helps them maintain consistency when they're in different environments.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what to do when things don't go well, because it's never going to be perfect. How do you handle when your kids have tantrums? Because I know in times that we've been out with, specifically Jackson when he was younger, and we were traveling a lot more before the pandemic, but sometimes he would just be crying hysterically. We'd be out in public, everyone's staring, and kids just do that. How do you handle it when those moments happen?
Um, well, he's not really like a public tantrum haver. He will do that more in our house. He's more of a private tantrum person.
Lucky you.
No, but I mean, he does when, like crying if he doesn't get his way, but it's not full blown. Like I've seen some kids have like full blown meltdowns in public, like just like going just really, really, really upset and nothing will console them. And when that happens, oh man, we try a little bit of everything. I think for us, it's like, I always think back, like my first go-to is ignore. In public, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But my first go-to is like ignore them. My husband's go-to is distract. So actually it's like redirect. That's his thing, is like redirect him. So if they're like, oh, I want a cookie, I want a cookie. It's like, oh, give me your hand. Oh, and he starts squeezing his hand. Like, oh, you're so strong. And like, then he's like, Dallas, squeeze my hand. It's like, he is a master at redirecting, and it really takes their focus away from what they were tantruming about and onto something else that's completely unrelated. So,
No, that's true.
yeah.
I also think like we always redirect or distract with types of entertainment. So anytime they try to get a little rowdy, we have some kind of toy or crayons or book or something like that to be like, okay, let's redirect you to something that's going to keep your attention.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. The redirection is very, very key, I think, at the young age. We also, I try to reason, but I always think about this quote I saw on social media. It's like, you can't reason with toddlers and terrorists. And I'm like, I don't, reasoning does not work, especially my child. My oldest, he'll like try to have a logical, he will win, really. He'll win with any logical reason. But I do try that still. I try to like reason with them and like have a conversation and and explain. I'm very big on like speaking to children as if they're adults and not baby talking them. So talking to them about like why this isn't happening, why we're not doing it, we'll do it later, and just helping them understand. Because usually with the tantrum, it's like they're upset about, I think, not getting their way or something has hurt their feelings. So I try to help them understand before redirecting or ignoring, or maybe the ignoring would come first.
I think most of the tantrums I've ever experienced in a trip is in the car ride. Luckily, not on the plane, but it's possible on a plane. But there was a car ride that we took with Russell where the way up, we were driving to Ohio. It's an 8-hour drive. The way up, it was smooth. He slept most of the time. Everything was great. On the way back, cried the entire time. I think we made like 6 extra stops just to take him out, rock him, entertain him, let him walk around. And I think it's just because he didn't want to be in the car for 8 hours. Like most adults probably don't want to be in the car for 8 hours.
No.
So sometimes you just have to go with the flow. Like whatever routines you plan on having may not work out. So we literally just stopped a lot. We gave him probably some extra snacks that we didn't normally want to give, or I was nursing at the time. So I, nursed him a little extra, which means I had to stop to do that while we were driving.
Yeah.
So you just have to do what you got to do.
Right. And also sitting back there in the back seat with them.
Yes.
I've done that. I try that. That usually works. They just want somebody to talk to, somebody in their face looking at them. But entertainment also helps. And that's so helpful on car rides and on planes, and just even when you're on the vacation and you're out in public, like going out to eat or something. I think it's so important to have different forms of entertainment for the children. So I know one thing you guys that you did once that I tried was like a bag of activities that you slowly introduced,
That
right?
is literally like my plan every time we travel. So I found this on Pinterest. So I literally have a bag of toys that's age appropriate for both kids. And the plan is that every hour there's a new form of entertainment and it's a different category of toy. So, and it escalates. So it gets more exciting. So I do this because they're going to get very bored very quickly. And you may have a long car ride or a long flight or even the beginning to the end of your travel experience. So before first, it may start off with like a favorite teddy bear, maybe some action figure or car, but then it may move from there to something that's going to be more interactive. So it could be like crayons where they're coloring or drawing, some Play-Doh or something like that. They're manipulating their hands so that it basically changes to the categories. It's not like they're going from one coloring book to another. I introduce like books so that they can read and play and stuff like that from that standpoint, because Jackson's at the age that he tries to read books. And then like the last thing on the list is like electronics. So I try to avoid that as long as possible. But once we get to that stage, it's like they're usually hooked in. So they're not going anywhere.
And then you have to time it out as far as when you introduce them so that it lasts for the whole trip.
Exactly. And then part of it too, like on car rides, my Pandora station or whatever is hooked in. So I'm playing like Elmo Pandora and we're singing songs, and then we're looking outside the car and like point out every excavator you see, like all these things to entertain. I mean, geez, it's so intense, but
it is, but it does work. It definitely works, you know, for one of the toy. And then even sometimes it's a matter of finding that one toy that may last a lot longer than the other. So for us, when we drove to Florida recently, I found these sensory tubes that were great for both Dallas and Dakota, and they enjoyed them for like a good hour or two. We still keep them in the car, actually, when we just are driving around town going places. But this toy is like one that makes noise. It's tactile. It can make different shapes and you can build on it. And so that toy has just been a hit for my kids, for both of them.
Yeah. Because honestly, at the end of the day, like whatever is going to entertain them is going to make it easier for you to do what you need to do. So if you're in the middle of a tantrum, if you've got a long bit of travel, if the flight's delayed and you're sitting at the airport for an extra 2 to 3 hours, you want to be prepared for any of those kind of moments.
Yeah.
Now, what about changing diapers and potty training? Or not potty training, but like going to the potty when you are traveling. You know, I just keep thinking about all the blowouts we've had in car rides. And I'm like, it's the absolute worst.
I know, it's so bad. I mean, for us, when they're that age where they're still wearing diapers, we typically stop every couple hours when we're in a car to change diapers, because, you know, if you don't, then it's all over the clothes. It gets really gross. But so just stopping every couple of hours and also packing clothes. It's important for us that we have not the bags in the trunk, but a diaper bag, a bag of tricks and tools that is easily accessible with wipes and hand sanitizer and everything you need that you can reach very easily, including a diaper, so that once you get there, you quickly go in and change. Sometimes you might want to change in the car because you don't know what the rest stop looks like. So that's something that we do. And then typically, even with Dallas, who's pretty much potty trained, we still always keep, I think I might have said this in another episode, we always keep pull-ups on him, because just so that as a fail safe, in case he doesn't hold it or we don't make it soon enough, he can use it on himself. But honestly, he really would prefer not to. And we would rather stop and get off course just so that he can go to the restroom without having him, you know, go potty on himself. Do you guys do that? I guess Jackson's trained all the way.
Jackson's potty trained, so we tend to be good. But back then when he wasn't, we were using the pull-ups. But this is my thing about traveling with pre-potty trained kids. So like Russell's age and everything like that. For one, as you said, have an extra change of clothes, but also for you, because there has been times that we have gotten stuff on ourselves So have extra change of clothes for the adults, like handy. Because also like we've had a time when I think Jackson threw up on us on a car ride. And then so you don't have to go unload stuff or look for clothes out of your carry-on and stuff like that. And then the other thing is having extra diapers and wipes in more than one place, because when things are frantic, you might forget. So we on a car ride, we'll keep a set of diapers and wipes in the front seat and in the back seat and in the trunk. And then on flights, we also have it on each of our carry-ons because you never know. And then have extra plastic bags to throw things away. Because if you have a huge blowout and you're doing a ton of cleanup, sometimes you like pull over at the side of the road or like at a gas station, and then you have all this stuff to throw away and it can get really messy.
Right. And a bag for wet clothes. We also have a bag specifically for wet or soiled clothes that we would put those in, as well as water, just having lots of water on hand, water to drink, water to clean up with. Just you need moisture when you have young children.
Yeah. So when you're traveling on a plane, you can just carry like an extra empty water bottle or something like that you can fill up when you're there. So the kids have something to drink that you're cleaning up with. And also do not forget those like diaper changing pads, because you can, like Christine said, change a diaper anywhere in the car, in the trunk, on the plane, in the oh my god, it's so hard to change on the plane, in the bathroom. Listen, you have to sometimes.
Oh my goodness, is that what I have to look forward to? I'm just gonna do it on the seat.
Yeah, I mean, not on a plane. You cannot change a baby in the seat.
Why? I'm gonna do it right there.
No, that's poop and pee everywhere with everyone around. And then nowadays, like if it's just you and Dontrell, oh, you have 3 people, but if you have something next to you, it could get real messy.
We can block it. Oh yeah, it's gonna stink. Oh
yeah,
Lord,
just take that butt to the bathroom.
Oh my goodness, I hope he holds it for the whole flight.
Here's hoping.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, but you could do it. See, you could do anything you put your mind to.
Yes.
Okay, so thinking back to all the travel you've done so far with the kids, what are some things that you wish that you would have done differently?
Wow. Well, I think some things I would have done differently. It's really just a matter of things I didn't know until I was in the moment. And I'm sure I'll have a lot of those stories after flying with both of the kids. But, with the diapers, for example, when I was first traveling with Dakota, Dallas, he had some major poops that we did not know that, it was going to go all the way up his back, So it was like, I just didn't know that. And like when things are left at home, it's like, oh my gosh, his sound machine. We left that when we went to Florida with the family trip. And it was like, just really thinking through every possible scenario when traveling with the kids. And I think that just comes with experience or just being a really awesome packer and planner. But for me, it was a matter of after 1 or 2 times traveling and realizing that I had some things that were not there, or I hadn't thought all the way through something that I knew better for the next time. Yeah. Right. I think that's like life.
No, I think so too. I think it's an interesting thing, but having a mix of routine and structure, but also a level of go with the flow. Like, I think in the beginning of our experiences traveling with the kids, there was more nerves and worries about like, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? So we were more inclined to like finish what we were doing earlier to head home and let them sleep, or I don't know. There was just a little bit more nerves about it. But then as time, has gone on and we've been more seasoned parents, realizing that at the end of the day, if things don't go how it's supposed to, if they don't get that nap in, or if they don't go to sleep at the exact same time, it's probably going to be just fine. So figuring out how to pivot and make it work so we all still get the best experience, I think is key. So like knowing the little hacks about a stroller where the kids can sleep, or letting your kids sleep on you, or having a pacifier if that's how they sleep. And also other mistakes that I've learned is if you think you've packed extra, pack even more, because all the blowouts, all the getting into mess and needing more changes of clothes and all the things, I think you never can underestimate how much extra clothes and baby things you're going to need.
See, I would say pack less. I feel like I always pack way more than I need. And I get there, I'm like, why did I bring this booster seat? We don't even need this. Or why did I bring this Neosporin? We don't need
Oh my
Neosporin.
gosh. Yeah.
But you're right. I think that you can't go wrong. You're better to err on the side of caution in case you do need it than to realize that you don't have it when you do.
Yeah. So we're out of the infant stage, but something must be said about nursing and travel because for most of my travel, I was nursing.
Mm.
So I think that in your car ride, the cooler can be so important because you can also rotate your breast milk that you're feeding baby or formula if you're doing formula with what you're using. So I would have some cold milk already in our like ice pack or cooler. And an ice pack will last you like a good 6 hours. So you might not need a whole cooler if you're only going a short distance. But I would pump and give whatever I pump directly to baby or like nurse directly if I need to. But then wherever you're going, having access to a fridge or freezer or something like that will be useful too. And then the
Mm-hmm.
sink so you can clean all your pump parts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I think that's also something to be said if you're traveling and nursing and pumping and all that at the same time. Having access to ice, a fridge, cooler, or
yeah.
something like that so that you can store your milk for your baby.
And if you're staying at a hotel, you can and that doesn't have a refrigerator, you can request a full size fridge. When I used to travel for work, I had to do that when I was traveling and pumping because sometimes those little small refrigerators in the hotel they don't get cold enough and or they get too cold and they freeze the milk or they don't actually have a freezer section, so you can actually request certain things if you are staying at a hotel. I guess one of the benefits of hotel staying.
Yeah, yeah, that's
But
true.
so you did say that there are some hacks that you learned along the way. So what are some of the hacks that you have learned that made traveling easier for you?
Yeah. So I think travel sized things or travel specific things. So, like, there are portable bottle warmers and plugins for your car so you can heat up a bottle warmer that way. Or, the things that you need to do in a short period of time that need a charge, having those kind of portable things, I think, are going to be really important. Having that travel car seat bag I mentioned so that you can take your car seat around if you're going places because you may not have access to a car seat if you're going somewhere else. And so you can just put your bag in there, even load in other things that you want to pack on top of the car seat and travel things that way.
Mm-hmm.
We had a infant sleeper that I guess, what is that thing called? The Halo is kind of like it, but it was more structured.
A
And
co-sleeper.
the co-sleeper. And that was so great because you can literally put it anywhere, in your hotel room, in your Airbnb, and just let them sleep wherever without having to have a full pack and play. But this is more for like infant age kids. Pack and plays can be really great too, because you can have a bigger kid that goes in there. But the small infant sleepers can be so good when you have a little one and you don't want to have a full, big, bulky sleeping thing.
Yeah, I tried that with my kids, but neither of them really took to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think another hack is just having like just lots of different types of food on hand for the kids, just really packing a variety of foods, variety of snacks that will last the duration of the trip, and making sure that you're able to have have different things to entertain them and different types of foods that they're kind of kept on their toes throughout the trip. It's already exciting because they're in a different city doing different things, but also knowing that like, oh mom, do you have my such and such, or mom, can I have a snack? And they know that you reach into your bag and there it is, a toy or something that they love, their favorite blanket and their favorite snack, and just the things that they love from home, their favorite book. So bringing some of those favorite items as well.
Yeah. And then having a bunch of extra small bags is so important. You can store toys in there. You can store dirty stuff like wet wipes and dirty diapers and everything like that. And like if you need to just throw a few things away, then you could just tuck them in those little bags and throw them out. So just a bunch of extras, tiny Ziploc bags or garbage bags, Target bags, whatever you want to call them. I think those are going to be really useful when you travel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when I go on my trip later next month, I will have to report back how it went, taking all of your advice and combining with mine. And hopefully it's a smooth sailing for for us flying with 2 kids. And then when we get there, driving with 2 kids. And it's going to be totally an experience.
It'll be good. You're going to be great. You'll be a pro.
Yep. Now it's time for rapid fire, where we ask questions related to the topic of the day. So today's questions are kind of more like this or that. So first one is, would you prefer to have your family stay at a hotel or an Airbnb?
Airbnb for sure. Probably a VRBO, but yes.
Oh, really? I feel like they're kind of the same, but I also prefer Airbnb. It's just so much more convenient. What about, would you prefer to drive or fly as a family?
I actually really like to drive. And I think we've driven more because of the pandemic, just because, we can be safe and isolated. But I just feel like I can throw all my stuff in a car and handle it that way. So drive, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think drive, it depends on how long the drive is. I don't want to go anywhere like longer than 7 hours, but driving feels like you have a little bit more control over everything.
Yeah.
Less tantrums. Would you prefer to have pre-made snacks on the drive or to buy snacks along the way?
Pre-made snacks for sure, but open to buying snacks, but just so you can have control over what the kids are eating. So
yeah, I agree. I like to pack it also, but then once we get there, if we're staying at an Airbnb, we then could go to the grocery store and get some more snacks that maybe we didn't want to travel with, or perishable things. So when you are traveling with your family, do you let the kids stay up past their normal sleep schedule bedtimes, or do you always just stick to the schedule?
So we're flexible. I would say that we may go to bed a little bit later, but we still have the same routine. So it may just be like 30 minutes later, something like that for the most part, but we still do all the same stuff that we normally would do. So I guess stay up late.
Yeah, I would prefer to stick to the schedule, but sometimes like when you're with family or it's something that is later than 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm okay with them staying up late. So as long as there's they have the ability to go to sleep if they wanted to, or have some quiet time, I prefer that if that's possible too.
But I kind of also like that they can go to bed at the time that they want to, because it just gives me and Bryson time to just have time without having to deal with kids. So when they're sleeping, then we can watch whatever show we want to watch, or, do whatever we want to do.
Right. But if they're with family and, they're up late, and there's like, we've been in the situation before where there were young kids around that were kind of close in age. They were up later. We're like, okay, you could stay up. So what about when you travel? Do you pack a bag for your kids separately, or do you just put their stuff in your own bag?
Oh my gosh, everyone needs their own bag. I would go crazy. So everyone's has their own bag with their own organization to it. I'm literally the person who packs all the bags for Bryson and the 2 kids and myself. I don't know how this even happened, but it's because I have this crazy organization system, and it has to be put back in place the same way. So everyone has to have their own stuff, so I know where everything is.
Wow. Wow. That is so intense. I normally end up packing for the kids and myself, not Dontrell. He has his own crazy, chaotic method to packing. But with the kids, I need to actually get Dakota his own bag, because they're sharing a bag and it's kind of like confusing.
Oh my
gosh,
yeah. No way.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing when we travel. I'm like, okay, is this yours? Like, and then when they go to like mom's house, Dakota ends up wearing Dallas's clothes and Dallas is wearing Dakota's clothes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Side note, there was a trip that Bryson and I went on, and we shared a suitcase. That was the worst idea in life. This is not even with the kids. This is when we went to Europe. We were trying to consolidate, and we
did that suitcase
too. That was like crazy. I couldn't find anything. His stuff was just, he would go in and rummage through, and I couldn't find my stuff. It'd be out of order. I didn't know what was dirty, what was clean. So never again. Everyone needs their own stuff.
We did that when we went to Europe too, because with Europe, you really do want to consolidate if you're going to multiple cities. Yeah. So we did that. But that's why when I travel with my kids and myself, I always bring a laundry bag for everyone's dirty clothes to go in separate from the clean clothes. So at least we know the dirty is separate from the clean.
Interesting. So what I do to organize everything, anything that's dirty, I flip inside out and I put on one side of the bag, and then I separate it by putting like a plastic bag over it. So I know what's clean and what's dirty.
Oh my gosh. So then you bring a plastic bag too, just for that?
I big a huge plastic bag so that I know that this is the stuff that was dirty, and it's flipped inside out so that if there's something dirty on it, then it's protected by the plastic.
Is it a trash bag or like a grocery bag?
It's like it could be either one, depending on how long the trip it is.
See, my laundry bag is a pillowcase. So that's where the dirty clothes go. It's like a huge, it could be a king size or any pillowcase, but that way it's like the smells are contained. It's all contained in that pillowcase. It's usually a silk pillowcase. Anyway, side note. So when you travel with your family, do you have a preferred travel time?
Yes, I am a morning person. I think I've said this on the podcast before. And actually, if we're going to fly, if we're going to drive, I like to leave while the kids are still kind of sleepy. So we'll leave at like 5 a.m. or something like that. Cause then we'll also get there earlier. So the beginning part of the drive, they're sleeping. It's still dark out. So that kind of maintains their routine.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're awake for less of the drive. And then if we're going to fly, I mean, of course we just get like whatever's the cheapest ticket, but ideally I kind of like to do it around their nap times too, so that they're not napping or not going to be sleeping on the flight, because I don't think they're going to get a good sleep.
Oh, yeah. I also prefer the early morning travel. As you guys know, from when we went to the family trip, we wanted to leave at like 5 a.m. So yeah, early morning just makes it easier. I think either if they're already asleep, if you're driving, you just kind of plop them in there in their pajamas and go. Or we've even left one time, like, oh my gosh, like 1 a.m.
Oh my God.
It was the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It was the middle of the night and Dallas was still sleeping. He actually traveled in his pajamas. So
yeah, that's what we do. We will put them in their pajamas. Like, as you said, let them wake up, just go straight in their car seats. We get the whole car loaded first. They're the last ones in the car seats.
Mm-hmm.
Turn the lights off so that when they're going in there, the lights are already off. And then we just pull off. And then when the first stop is when they wake up to eat breakfast. So we'll stop, change their clothes, let them eat breakfast.
Yep.
And then continue on.
Exactly. Yeah. So early morning is the best. I would not say 1 a.m. I think before the crack of dawn is best. And then even with flying, like we have our flight booked for 7 a.m. So it'll be a very early start, but I think the earlier, the better, because one, you get to enjoy the trip more. And then it just keeps, everyone's more fresh and refreshed first thing in the morning.
I was listening to something on Instagram the other day. Somebody gave a little tip about flying, and I wish I had kept this in mind when I flew, and I'll keep it in mind when I fly in the future. But this person was saying that when they say people with children and infants, you can come aboard, their recommendation is if you're traveling with 2 people, have the person without the kids take the car seats and the bags and stuff like that onto the plane to load before everyone else is on the plane, but don't take the kids on the plane until after everyone else is on the plane, because ultimately your kids will be sitting on the plane first. And that's like an extra 40 minutes of just sitting there before you actually take off. So let them run around, play, get their energy out, but your bags and stuff like that can be put on the plane.
That's
and then
a good point.
Final call, then get the kids on the plane so that they're sitting down last.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I'm sure they're going stir crazy on the plane, like anxiously awaiting takeoff, not knowing what's taking so long. Oh, I'm glad you said that. We're going to do that.
Yeah. So lots of good tips. You can report back and let us know.
Yes, stay tuned.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a thing, and leave us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram @thecradleandall, or email us at thecradleandall@gmail.com.